Hey up, it's Noir Vortex, having another ramble about something related to science, philosophy, the mind, and the future of the human race. Or, to me more specific, should we be human? AKA post-humanism. So what is post-humanism? So, we have humanism as a idea, philosophical construct, which is quite popular in the world when you actually look at the broad spectrum of philosophy. Humanism is based in a main secular alternative to religious orthodoxy. Religious orthodoxy being that we follow the Lord and everything he says, blah, kind of like the old-fashioned hang-ups, patriarchal hierarchies of daddy figures in the sky. So it's basically the alternative to that, which is a man-centered philosophy. Man or woman-centered. Either gender, transgender, whatever. Fucking a person-based philosophy. In the simplest terms. Humanism is about human values and cultivating human values and positive human values, essentially. Free from religious orthodoxy, which obviously comes with a hell of a lot of baggage, a lot of scripture, a lot of things, telling you to chop people's genitalia, blah 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 blah. There's a lot of baggage that comes with all that orthodox interpretations of religious texts. A lot of baggage comes with it. Humanism suggests that's all baggage we need to get rid of, essentially, not by force, but just by reason. But I'm not here to talk about humanism. I gave a very cluttered and quite angsty vision of it there. What I'm here to talk about is post-humanism. Now, what is post-humanism? Obviously, we'll trace this back philosophically as well, as much as I can do in my brain. Post-humanism is basically a philosophy that advocates for becoming more than human. So in traditional media there should be things like someone trying to relate it to these stuff, Ghost in the Shell, even Blade Runner. It's the idea of becoming cyborgs, or almost, could take many different forms. It could be genetic engineering, which Blade Runner kind of is, with the replicants. It could be cyborg, being complete cybernetic, so a complete mixture of flesh and machine. Now, I was just actually thinking about this because I've been on a walk in the park, hence this dialogue. It's kind of stream of consciousness. Is we already are, in a sense, cybernetic, not in a physical sense. Obviously, there is a physical barrier still most of the time between the actual, machinery of this and our physical selves. There's still an abstract buffer between those two things. But if you think about this more abstractly, we are becoming man-machine, as the glorious Kraftwerk would have put it. Long may they reign in Germanic techno heaven. We already are becoming machines. Most of our time at work consumed with working with machines, these little black boxes of memory, imagination, all the rest of it. We have cars, we travel, we break the barriers of speed. We don't break anything, unless you're driving really fast, you're not going to break the sound barrier. But the speed of light, the speed of sound. But we have a direct relationship with our cars, so that and that is a symbiosis. It's obviously not physically connected to the cars. That would be very strange or strapped in. But we have that abstract, tactile relationship with our cars, whereby our mind and the car, which doesn't have an intelligence, obviously, but basically we are taking command of machinery then, and strange kind of way. And I know not everyone's going to get this. There's a symbiosis there between the man and machine. Obviously, the machine doesn't have any intelligence, but we are still using a tool that we've developed to break, kind of barriers that would otherwise be there because of speed, distance that we can travel naturally as human beings. Obviously there's probably a few runners in the Olympics who can run as fast as a car, like 30 miles an hour, but very few of us could do that. I certainly couldn't. But anyway, the point is, human beings and machines are already synthesizing together. It might sound on the abstract level. The real big questions of post-humanism are what happens when that becomes physical? What happens when we develop artificial intelligence? What happens if there's a singularity where the intelligence that we develop, which can pass Turing tests and all the rest of it, what happens when they can develop faster and more intelligent intelligences than we have got? This is what is known as a singularity, which is an idea in post-humanism and transhumanism, is that basically intelligence. So you've got engineers that just start developing artificial intelligence, so this is the intelligence of the engineer, right? He develops an AI at the same or equivalent level of his intelligence or just below. That AI then has the ability to develop other AI. So the curve of intelligence goes like this. And it kind of goes into a feedback loop of infinity. So it kind of goes to infinity, and when we get to that point in the idea of the singularity, there's no real, we're in pure chaos territory. It's kind of interesting because I'm reading about chaos at the minute, chaos theory, chaos math. Lorentz attractor, that's fluid dynamics in systems. Butterfly effect commonly is the common concept for what chaos theory is. It's the idea of unpredictability in closed systems. I think essentially that's probably a good definition of it. I'm still reading the book, I'm finished it. But yeah, unpredictability. So a closed system being anything, like any system, like this is a system of, like, if I it's a weird example. There's a system. You can systematize anything basically. So obviously the big systematization is all of reality, philosophy, all of science. The entire mission in a way of science, which is kind of a futile one in some respects, but also I like to see it as a kind of, it's a noble one, but you're never going to get everything. You're never going to be like, even Da Vinci had some gaps in his knowledge, or even Einstein didn't know all about biology. He was a physics guy. I mean, So even back to I'm kind of veering off on one now. Post-humanism basically is overcoming our own limitations, which is back philosophically through Nietzsche. So Nietzsche was one of the first philosophers who dealt with the idea of the death of God, essentially, which is, people often think that means the literal death of some figure, which is, it's not. Basically what it is the religion in Nietzsche's time still had quite a powerful influence on his parents. Were religious, but he foresaw really that the religious-based morality, the kind of fixed idea of a God who provides that meaning for human beings, of a higher power and celestial realms and angels and Jesus and that moral authority, he saw that would go into decline. He kind of he foretold of, in a way, the time we're living in, 20th century, 21st century, of that idea of God as a fixed morality is dying. And it is. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, the contemporary age we live in, there is a lot of religious violence and a lot of religious extremism. But the clues in the title of what I just said, extremism. We no longer see people in ISIS or religious fundamentalists as they're seen as the crazies because they are. But then if we lived in a less hyper-connected world than we do now, those religious crazies, and even people who are religious still think these people are fucking crazy because they are. But at least we now live in an age where at least even the religious can see that these people are fucking nuts and that they are extremists. Now Nietzsche foresaw this a long time ago, that about the death of God, which is the death of absolute morality from a higher source. And his whole idea that he developed was the idea of the overman, which I could talk a lot into. There's a lot of different levels to it. But he saw that the highest aspiration of man was to create a culture. He saw culture as the big thing. culture as in like art, science, or music, performance. And his idea was that we have to struggle to become more than we are. We have to become not less human, but more ourselves in some ways. It's a highly individualistic philosophy, extremely individualistic. In a lot of ways, being an overman, and people who try, you can kind of like look at fictional examples of the kind of overman kind of tropes. And Nietzsche even says himself that not everybody can do this. This is not a philosophy for everybody. Talks about this quite a lot in Beyond Good and Evil. I'll be here actually. There you go. It's a nice, lovely book. It's a beautiful book. This is the home version. Yeah. This is well worth. This is Beyond Good and Evil. That's book Zarathustra, which is also worth reading. This book Zarathustra is for me his best book. It's about, literally it just sets down all of the parables of the Overman and what basically essentially the Overman is. And yeah, like I said, anyway, back to post-humanism. I'm kind of jumping around a lot, I realise. Post-humanism essentially is Overman philosophy of Nietzsche taken into a more technological, modern-day, contemporary vein, which is my opinion of it. Read the Post-Human Manifesto by Robert Pepperell, well worth reading, which is his kind of idea of what post-humanism could be, how it could manifest productively. I've got a copy of that somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is right now. Very interesting book, well worth reading. Yeah, the kind of the Post-Human Condition is the book. The Post-Human Manifesto is the manifesto. You can probably read it. I'll link to it below. That post-humanism basically is going beyond being human, being through technology usually. So it could be that could take, getting your brain, putting it in a machine so you live there forever, essentially until you get bashed in too much, like Major Kusanagi and Ghost in the Shell. Well, even that didn't kill her. Becoming pure information in a machine mainframe. That's a really kind of highly hypothetical one, obviously, because we don't really understand where consciousness emerges from. So whether we could actually replicate this stuff, this brain here, and then put it into a machine and have it so that a highly advanced computer could run a simulation of my mind in a kind of simulated environment, it's highly hypothetical. It's possible, maybe. I mean, we know that all this stuff going on here is just grey matter and electrical signals, neurons firing, yada yada yada. So basically, yeah, post-humanism is a very highly theoretical field of inquiry into big questions that we might have to deal with in like 100 years or 50 years, even potentially the way that technology is advancing so fast. It's very interesting. Pepperell is worth looking into. Nietzsche, definitely, just to get that grounding in the actual philosophical history of post-humanism, I suppose. And I guess not everybody would even agree that Nietzsche was a post-humanist, but I think he was just was never, obviously the label wasn't even existing in time, but the Overman is basically the start of the idea of the post-human. I'll just get another book out because it's quite interesting. It kind of relates. Numismatics, metaphysics, metaethics, psychedelics. This is about, I've only read it once a while ago actually. It's very much about nihilism, which is the challenge that Nietzsche presented essentially. I work through nihilism a lot. In my weaker moments, I definitely fall back into everything's meaningless. None of this means anything. Human beings are inherently ridiculous and stupid and easily malleable, kind of manipulable creatures. But this is quite a good journey through that because it actually tries to reassert, and there's a lot of heavy language in it, but it's I need to read it again actually. It talks about psychedelics as well, how that relates to nihilism, that kind of philosophical framework. So check this one out. I'm just recommending books now because, to be honest, the best way to figure out all this stuff is just to read about it. Frankenstein, it's a good post-human metaphor, I suppose, in fiction. Very good example of where it can go wrong. Mary Shelley, brilliant Mary Shelley, of course. She had a dream of a monster coming to life. Dr. Frankenstein, the kind of driven madman, essentially, of trying to play God. What the kind of popular interpretation of it is, kind of create a new life form. I mean, if you actually think about the Frankenstein idea, in some respects, if someone could do that in a controlled setting and not, go off on the whole kind of god trip, I guess, essentially, it would actually be quite useful if somebody could do that. So you could, if you could find a way of regenerating matter or regenerating energy into human bodies or organs, you've got instantly there, you've got people who are ill, just cellular regeneration could be possible, or all that kind of me just yabbering. I mean, essentially, Frankenstein, I guess that's why. Idea is a very interesting one. Deleuze and Guattaro, I'll just recommend a bit of that, I guess. What's that? Whatever. Oh shit, my bookcase can fall down. Finally recommend one book. This is not easy, but Anti-Oedipus, Capitalism and Schizophrenia. And this is quite a hyper complex book. It's not technically post-humanism really, but it is in one way. It's all about how schizophrenia still proposes this method called schizoanalysis, which is essentially a way out beyond psychoanalysis, kind of proposed method. It's kind of very wacky, this book. You've got lots of talk about endless flows of information, the anus, body without organs. It is a proper trip through postmodern kind of language and philosophy. But very interesting. Kind of mixes in Marxist analysis of Freud, psychoanalysis, very critical psychoanalysis, which I like because psychoanalysis in its very nature I think is reductive, and a lot of the time it's just kind of almost feels cliched now, and obviously the models that move beyond that. I'm not going to have too much of a go at Freud. I've not got much time for it. I'm more of a young guy myself, but yeah, anyway. So there's that, and I would show the post-human condition if I had it, but it is somewhere here, but I can't find it at the time. So just read that, find it, look for it, it's worth reading. Well, I think that's enough of a ramble about post-humanism. I guess I'll just add an addendum, I guess. So I think if post-humanism does arise, I think it will be a slow progress. I think the kind of ideas of people have like singularity and a very fast evolution of this post-human paradigm. I think the reality of it will be a much more slower process over about 40 or 50 years, probably longer potentially. So I think the first way it will come through will be whether it's injured soldiers or people injured in industrial accidents getting replacements of arms and kind of get cybernetically enhanced, essentially. I think that'll be the first way that it comes through. It already does happen already. People with like pacemakers and essentially replacement hearts and all the rest of it. So obviously that science will innovate through medical, in this sense, through medical experimentation and medical innovation. Obviously medical experimentation's got hugely worrying connotations, and even the precedence of science. I mean, it's really one of the messed up things of history is that we actually know. I read this a while ago. Is that one of the reasons that we know a lot of this is horrible. Sorry, terrible note to end on. One of the reasons that we know how much the human body can endure in terms of pain, in terms of freezing temperatures, is because the Nazis, basically lots of medical experiments, where they do Nazi science, the least moralistic science of all time, did experiments on human beings to determine all those kind of things, which we have a body of knowledge now that came from that, sadly enough. But obviously the human cost is just horrendous. So a lot of science anyway is just generally, science has to have a moral framework, otherwise it's become a monster. It is easier to become like Dr. Frankenstein if you obviously have the knowledge and kind of will to do so. But at the same time, would you want to become like a kind of mad scientist in your cackling in your basement, stitching people together? I wouldn't really want to do that myself. And I have an interest in trying to innovate things, but at the minute I'm just too lazy and not putting enough effort into things. I've got a new project coming up soon which I really want to invest a lot of time in, which could potentially be dealing a bit with technology, but I think I've talked enough now. I've talked for 20 minutes, so that's Post-humanism. Quick ramble about it, some book recommendations, and obviously delivered in my usual semi-serious / comedic fashion. So, auf Wiedersehen, onwards, long live the new flesh, and other such sci-fi tropes from cinema history. The net is vast and infinite. Where does the newborn go from here? Etc. etc. If you get any of these references, well done. You are a nerd of the sci-fi variety.